Good. Awesome. Oh, good. There you go. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to All4Youth SSA's Career Hookup. This is our first in-person event. My name is Joyce Sibanyoni, and I am part of the implementation team for All4Youth SSA. I'm also your host for today's event, and I hope you're as excited as we are to be here. Are you excited? I can't hear you. Are you excited? Yes, awesome. For everybody that's joining us online, welcome. You may not be in the room, but we are so glad that you've joined us this morning. And we want to make sure that you engage with us. We have our hashtag for the day in celebration of International Youth Day. We're talking about creating a world for all ages. So before we get to meet some of our guests and who's going to be sharing a little bit about this topic, we also want to know what you think. So comment, share, like, make sure that you are engaging. There's prizes up for grabs, so you want to make sure that you're engaging with us and make sure that you do not miss any part of the conversation. So our hashtags for the day are All4Youth SSA, The Career Hookup, and IYD 2022. I hope that you are going to be grown from this conversation. I hope you're going to be challenged, and also that you'll start thinking differently of how you navigate and work around your own world. So, without further ado, I'm going to be introducing our first speaker, who's going to be giving us the welcome for today, as well as highlighting what International Youth Day and our topic for the day is. It is Ethel Swanepoel, who's the HR Director for Nestlé ISA, and he's also going to be joining us virtually. Good morning, Ethel.
Good morning.
How are you, Ethel?
Very good, and yourself?
Good, thanks. We'd like to see your face, Ethel. Is your camera on?
Yes, it is.
Let's see. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Ethel. I'm going to hand over to you to give us our welcome today, and then we'll go into our panel introductions.
I can go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The youth and the youthful. While I've long ago joined the ranks of the not so youthful, I remain a youth at heart, and the issues facing our youth is a topic close to my heart. My name is Ethel Swanepoel. I am the HR Director for Nestlé East and Southern Africa, and it's a great pleasure and a privilege to open up our International Youth Day event. The Alliance for Youth, or All4Youth as it's also known, is an alliance of like-minded companies working together to help young people around the globe get the necessary skills to thrive in the world of work. Today, alliances exist at a global level, in zones and in regions, and was recognized in the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2019. All4Youth Sub-Saharan Africa Alliance is a collaborative intervention spearheaded by various multinational companies across Sub-Saharan Africa. Its primary objective is to create and implement employability programs, mentorship, and training initiatives that will equip the youth with essential workplace skills. On November 4th, in 2019, South Africa launched the All4Youth Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Alliance, and to date, 6 companies have joined the alliance in Sub-Saharan Africa. Nestlé, ABB, Adcorp Group, Nielsen Africa, Publicis, and Microsoft. I'm very happy and excited for this opportunity for us to connect with the All4Youth community from all over Africa this morning. International Youth Day is an awareness day designated by the United Nations. The purpose of today is to draw attention to a given set of cultural and legal issues surrounding youth. The first International Youth Day was observed on 12 August 2000, and this year's theme of intergenerational solidarity is intended to amplify the message that action is needed across all generations to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and leave no one behind. This year's International Youth Day will also raise awareness of certain barriers to intergenerational solidarity, notably ageism, which impacts young and older persons. So it's an honor for us as part of the All4Youth Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Alliance to have this discussion with you, our All4Youth community. We look forward to sharing how the Alliance partners are leading the way within the respective partnering organizations, as well as highlight what we can do as individuals of all ages to create a world for all. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion and events, but moreover, that you are impacted positively to be the difference in your community, schools, higher learning institutions, and work environments, and we work together to move forward in creating a world for all ages. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ethel, for that warm welcome and for framing the conversation of the day. I think we can give him a hand, right? Yes, we know that the impact of All4Youth is one that is vast. And being part of the team, I know the difference that it makes. Today, we actually get to speak to you in person as part of our All4Youth community. And it's our first in person event, which is quite exciting. But I think unpacking the conversation, I'd like to actually start with Saint, someone who is starting or can kick us off from a communications point of view. You're going to get the first question, but before we get into that, let's do quick introductions. Tell us who you are, why you're on this panel, and what you're looking forward to. Saint, you want to kick us off?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Saint Francis. It really is my name, just by the by. And for my sins, I've had to negotiate life as Saint Francis. I'm part of Nestle. I represent the executive of Nestle. As Joy mentioned, I'm corporate communications and public affairs director. I'm really looking forward to engaging and having youth present and the voice of youth. In fact, actually, it's not just youth. So multiple voices, I think, are equally important to this discussion. And I think it's quite apt that we're talking about intergenerational solidarity. So lovely to see you all here present, and that is me.
Hi, beautiful people. My name is Ivania Naidu, and I'm the Chief People Officer for the Publicis Group. My role, in a nutshell, is to obsess over people, which is all of you, which I'm very excited about. I joined the company about 3 months ago to inspire change, create diversity, and an inclusive working environment for all. So I think it's perfect that I'm on the panel today. My role here today is hopefully to inspire you all, but also to learn from you. So thank you for having me.
Not on.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Hi everyone. My name is Amonge Eletu Sungoto. I am 21 years old. I am the founder of a nonprofit company called Blackboard Africa. We've been running for about 5 years now, and our whole mission is around cultivating youth talents towards a transformed society. So, I mean, that's the fancy, slogan, but, what that means is we're really invested in developing youth talents and youth skills, specifically in regards to leadership training. So we run different leadership training modules, we offer mentorship, as well as, trying to support the young people in our programs in any way we can in our network. So yeah, that's really our organization and what we've been attempting to do, just uplifting, empowering, and making sure that young people have access to a greater, variety of opportunities. So yeah, that's me.
Let me get that right. 21.
21.
And it's been running for 5 years. That means you started it at 16. I had pimples and was egocentric at that age. Congrats. Yeah, so my name's Jed. I am the managing director of Nielsen IQ South Africa. My job primarily is to focus on revenues and numbers. So when I get to engage with people, let me turn my seat. When I get to engage with people like that, this is the highlight of my day-to-day job. This is where I get the most reward, I think. This All4Youth is fantastic. This is my second experience being on one of these discussions. Lovely to be in person, face to face. as part of the last one, I was fortunate enough to get to mentor somebody, and the amount you get out as a mentor from the youth is just unbelievable. You really get to learn so much through intergenerational communication, and that's why I like these sessions, and I want to engage as much as I can with it, because it's good for us to give back. But as much as we're giving back, we get so much back too, because yeah. So I love this. So yeah, looking forward to the session.
Awesome. Jacob?
Thank you so much. Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Okay. My name is Jacob Mohale, and I'm living my life right now. I'm not in a job. I actually do what I love. I head up the sales division for EdCop training services. So what we basically do is we find lovely human beings like yourself. We upskill them for work-relevant tasks. We place you in work environments and make sure that you guys have a future. So I'm really excited to engage with you guys today. I've had the wonderful privilege of working across Africa. I've lived in Nigeria, Ghana, and a few other countries. So I've learned so much from those experiences that I just want to give back. So I'm hoping for a highly engaging session where we ask each other really pertinent questions and help move the agenda forward. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So we said that we're going to be getting the first question to Saint. And obviously, Ethel shared a little bit of what intergenerational solidarity means, right? But from a communications point of view, what are some of the effective ways to make sure that that message gets across? And most importantly, what does that actually mean to you?
What a question. Goodness. So I think let's start with what does it mean for me and the role of communication in simplifying, I think, resonance and meaning. So I think simply put, for me, I thought about, what does solidarity represent? And I think simply put, it's about empathy. And what does empathy mean? It is the ability to understand and appreciate somebody's lens of the world. That's what empathy is. And so simply put, intergenerational solidarity has to be rooted in empathy. We need to empathize with each other, different schools of thought, millennial, Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen I, so many generations, right? But we have to appreciate, right? And I think the key word there for me is also an appreciation. There's one thing to try and understand, right? It's not sympathy. Oftentimes it's really misconstrued. Empathy is misconstrued to mean sympathy, right?
Yeah.
But empathizing means that you can appreciate that point of view.
Yeah.
And that's what intergenerational solidarity means for me personally. So it's really empathizing, appreciating, and then celebrating those differences. We need to celebrate those differences because I think there's such richness. If we were all from one generation, if we were all from one particular school of thought, I think the world would be an incredibly boring place to exist in. And so I think celebrating is also key. That for me is part of that intergenerational solidarity. Now, from a comms perspective, I think the role of communication is to simplify meaning. The role of language is important in many different spheres, right? And I'm not going to bore you in terms of the academic role of communication or language. I think language and then communication. So for me, I think sometimes we get very intimidated with big words like intergenerational solidarity, right? And we struggle to internalize what does that mean. And so I think for language or for communication, it is to simplify it, right? And so if we say we celebrate different generations, I think we can all understand what that means. It's not too far removed. So I do think languaging is important. I think the role of communication and language is to simplify it such that we understand. and there's probably accessibility in concepts such as intergenerational solidarity.
Awesome. Maybe Amonga, let's bring you in. I love the fact that Saint obviously shared that there's a part of empathy and language that's very important, but big ideas like youth and intergenerational solidarity. Do youth really understand what it means? And what does it mean to you specifically also?
I think from my perspective, what it means, I think you definitely covered all the bases, but I think for me, I'm just, my mind is action orientated. So intergenerational solidarity for me means having a form of togetherness that'll equip action, right? It's like you're saying, appreciating everybody's perspective and the way that you think to do things, but it's about innovating and collaborating so that we have more dynamic solutions. So that's what, international solidarity, when I look at it, that's what I genuinely think is essential. I think young people are able to comprehend those concepts. I know, they sound big and they sound a little bit intimidating, but I don't think it's anything that's necessarily like unfamiliar in a sense. I think we, especially as Africans, we've always had an appreciation for, respecting, the perspectives of your elders. What I do think we need to do is kind of also appreciate the young person's perspective and what they have to bring to the table. Like you're saying, even in a mentorship relationship, there's so much give and take, and we also have so much to offer. So I think young people definitely understand it. I think it's also just about getting everybody to come to the party and recognize that we may be different, vastly, vastly different, but there's definitely something of value that we can all bring.
Absolutely. I think I love the fact that you're saying that there's almost two ways to it. There's young people essentially understanding the older generation, but older generation also understanding younger people as well. So maybe this is where we bring in an organizational point of view. And I'd like to hear what Yavinia and also Jed, from an organizational point of view, why is it important that we understand generational differences? And what are some of the practical ways within your respective organizations that you are doing to make sure that it's enhanced and making sure that that messaging is also understood throughout the company? Yavinia?
Right. So I think from my perspective, there is strength in being diverse and unique, and we need to celebrate that and acknowledge it. The world is changing. We all have opportunities to contribute. We all should have opportunities to have a say. And I think from a workplace perspective, it's really important to create those platforms and opportunities where we can come from a place of learning and growth. I think it's also a mindset shift. So from a spiritual and a holistic perspective, it's coming from a base that we need to start to love unconditionally, regardless of where we're from, how we look, what's our background. From there, you can build on that base where we can all be seen and treated as equals. I think there's so much power in just changing our mindset. And from an organization perspective, it's really about changing that mindset from the top to allow different perspectives to come through. The role of talent and the role of people and the role of leaders and managers is so critical. It's not about delegation of tasks. It's not about monitoring. It's about inspirational leadership. It's about transferring of skills. So I think from a publicist perspective, there's a lot of change coming in terms of us wanting to create the space where everyone can thrive within the business context.
Awesome. Everyone can thrive. I love that. There's a place for everyone. Jed, your thoughts?
Yeah, so for us at the diversity inclusion is at the heart of everything we do. It's critical for our business's success. I think often when you hear the words diversity and inclusion within the South African framework, it straight away your mind goes to race because of what the amazing journey we've come through. But diversity and inclusion goes far much wider and broader than that. It's gender, it's race, it is religious beliefs, it is sexuality. But beyond all of that is age.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things we try to focus on. We're in quite a fortunate position where in our company we hire a lot of young people, people who generally come straight out of university or postgrads. So I've actually got an issue now. We've got all these very clever book smart people, but there's a lack of experience. So that's something that the older people can give. So what I'm focusing on is how can we accelerate the experience, which is actually just given by time in seat. Like there's a lot you can learn from a theoretical point of view, but experience is sitting in seat, learning how to fail, learning how to get back up and starting again. And I believe that's where we've got to kind of break. The older generation and the younger generation needs to understand each other's strengths, but then they also need to understand and acknowledge each other's vulnerabilities, and then start having open dialogues on how we can help each other. So how can, let's say, teach an old dog new tricks? How can the youth open up the mindset of the more experienced? But in the inverse, how can the experienced people mentor, coach, and accelerate the experience gap that is seen? Just before this talk, I was doing a bit of research or reading into it. So we all know Africa's got the youngest population, but 60% of Africa or Africans are aged 25 and younger.
Wow.
So we have got one of the youngest populations. The median age, 19 years old for Africa. If you don't embrace the youth, you're not going to be relevant in any organization. And that's why it's so important. And when I hear people like this next to me, then I get such a thrill about the future of our country. And when I look at the room of all you bright people, I get very excited about where we can go and what we can do.
Absolutely. I love what you just added there, that the future is dependent on young people being embraced. Africa is such an awesome country. Well, not country, sorry. I sound American. It is an awesome continent. I was just checking that everyone's listening. But I think one of the things that can kind of be seen as a intimidating factor is all these young people that are coming into the working environment. And then older people or the older generations feeling like, what are we going to do with all these young people? Where do we take them to? What happens to us? So maybe I'll shoot it over to Jacob, right? I think you're going to get one of the toughest questions. How do young people not see it when they come into organizations and having more senior people in higher positions as a threat? And how do older generations who are occupying these high positions not see it as a threat that younger people are coming in?
I think that's the question of the day, basically. And everything rises and falls on leadership. And my leadership context is setting other people for success. That is the most important tick box as a leader. So when I see young people get into the organization, I make sure that they are coming into an environment that cultivates growth. A large part of our leadership context is also centered around letting go of the ego and being vulnerable. Actually harnessing the power of vulnerability. Vulnerability, growing up, I used to think it's a weakness. You're vulnerable, you're therefore susceptible to attack. But it's actually power. There's power in being vulnerable. So I'm in a very fortunate position where I can influence, and the people that report into me have got the same leadership context. They need to be vulnerable. They need to be conscious of the fact that the youth is our future.
Yes.
There's something that we do at EdCorp which is quite deliberate, and when you look at our purpose as a company, it reads, we enable agile, skilled, and focused workforces for the future. We're very deliberate in our purpose as an organization. And in there, you'll see there are all elements of youth. there's future, there's agility, and so on and so forth. So, look, I can say to you that yes, there is a fear, young people, when you get into organizations, that there will not be any skills transfer unto you because people want to hold on to their positions. We are changing that narrative. Our leadership context as an executive is changing. I mean, I've had the pleasure of engaging with these wonderful people this morning, and they all share the same sentiment around we need to empower our youth because that's our future. So we're finding that the culture is changing across all organizations. We want to mentor people. We're putting structures in place to mentor our youth. We're very deliberate in not just ticking a box, but it is the right thing to do. It's not a tick box exercise. The youth is our future. I'm in a very fortunate position to occupy a role that has got to do very much with the training. So I see students on a daily basis, and we on a daily basis as an executive are very deliberate in putting programs together that mentor the youth. Vice versa, the youth coming into the organization must also understand that it takes time to get to a particular place. So vulnerability is both ways. When you get into an organization, don't expect to graduate today, tomorrow you want an executive role. It takes time.
Yeah.
So there's a big piece around patience as well, and actually allowing the mentorship to sink in, so that when you get to a particular position that you need to get to, that you're able to occupy it and influence instead of wanting to rush the process. So I really just want to encourage you, do not lose faith and hope. We are addressing this issue top down. Leaders are becoming more and more vulnerable. They're becoming more and more conscious. We've dropped our egos. We want to share our knowledge. We don't want to take our knowledge to the grave. I don't want to hang on to my job until I'm 90. So yeah, I think.
I just want to jump in quick.
Please do.
There's two words you used that I absolutely loved. The first one is vulnerability. I've made my career from vulnerability, I believe. Not at the beginning. I was a very arrogant youth, thinking I know it all, and started failing. You've got to be vulnerable and ask for help. That's such a good point you made. Vulnerability is a strength. I think that's helped accelerate certain things for me. Is I asked for help all the time. Don't be scared of doing that. But the other word you used, which I like so much, and I'm starting to try and use it and try and get my leadership team to think about it, is be deliberate. You mentioned it's a deliberate strategy and it's deliberate. I find a lot of, with all the technical stuff from COVID, which has been accelerated, people aren't deliberate in what you're doing. Be deliberate. It's such a good word. So I like that.
Awesome. Be deliberate. I think the good thing about being deliberate is anybody can do it. It's not about having a special skill or a special talent. Anyone in this room, anyone out there can do it themselves. It just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of interest, and a lot of vulnerability, like you were saying. I think one of the things that I also want to hear is what are the key initiatives that different organizations are running? Saint, maybe we can ask you from a Nestle point of view, what are you driving as an organization?
Yeah, so I think before we get to initiatives, I think when we talk about diversity, inclusion, and belonging, which I think is often missed, other companies don't speak about belonging, but we certainly do as Nestle, is that you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're driving is being felt and is visible, and it becomes part of the organizational culture. I want to relay a personal part of my journey, actually, which I really think more than anything is true testament to when Nestle talks about diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And to your point, Jed, about being intentional, you have real examples that I think, I would hope, are inspiring, but also give that true reference point within the organization for other people to say, it's not just lip service, it is actually real, and we see it and we feel it. So I was appointed to the executive at 31, right? That is fairly young. I was the youngest, still am. I know there's a Monge who's coming into the organization, but that in itself is important, right? Because we talk about providing opportunities, we talk about bringing youth in, but when young people don't feel that, one, they're represented, right? Two, they have a seat at the table. That in itself is also, well, it's lip service, right? So we have to follow the trajectory that is, traditional in how we're going to ascend in our careers. So what I loved about Nestle and my personal story was the fact that hard work, talent, being deliberate in myself and my personal brand, may have not been the most experienced EXCO member, but I was given that opportunity based on leadership, what I demonstrated and the potential that I had. And I think that's important, right? That in itself, I think, and we're seeing that our executive is becoming just so blended and beautiful, right? Younger people under 40 are sitting on the executive, which 10 years ago, that was completely unheard of, right? But being deliberate as an organization to say we're going to give opportunity to talent, irrespective of gender, race. Well, actually, no, I take that back, actually, because you also have to be intentional and deliberate in, equity, etc. So I'm not saying that's not part of very deliberate thinking and strategies. So that in itself, I think, is a very powerful testament, and within the organization, it shows that we really, truly mean it. To then support that, you have to have initiatives, right? Again, that word being intentional, being deliberate. Was that a question from a member of the audience? So we have what we call affinity networks within the organization. Some of you may know or are familiar with this concept of affinity networks, where you essentially have employee-driven groups that are advancing particular passion points, right? So I'm the executive sponsor of the Generations Affinity Network, where we're looking to encourage conversation, drive conversation, initiatives that show and demonstrate that we are for all generations, right, within the organization. So we want to understand what can we do better as an organization, but it's employee-led. Right? So my role is just simply to facilitate. What do you need? How can I assist? We want to do an event. Okay, do I need to unlock the budget, etc. So that I think is an effective way of really demonstrating, and I think we've had these affinity networks for about 2 to 3 years now, and we're starting to see that traction, advancing those conversation around different affinity networks. And then reverse mentoring, although not highly formalized, is such it's amazing, right? How you can get younger people to mentor older people in the organization, and then this cross-pollination of different points of view, skills, social media. How do I do this? No, but don't be reckless with social media. It's beautiful to witness. So I think those, for me, just to summarize, one, I think it's about being intentional and deliberate, because you may have initiatives, but if it's not being felt, if it's not visible, if it doesn't translate into lived experience for our employees, then something is not quite working well there. So I wanted to reference that. And then the affinity networks and reverse mentoring, I think, are quite powerful tools.
Awesome. Lavinia, do you want to share what you guys are doing at Publicis?
So there's lots on the go. We have a vision of creating open possibilities this year for our people and our clients, and that in itself is open possibilities. So from an organization perspective, we are big on learning, growth, and development. And we have the right tools and platforms in place to support that. So starting from funding educational initiatives, from bursaries, I think it starts there because not everyone has the access to funding to get a good quality education. So that's something that's big and that we're going to start growing and expand on a larger scale to open it up to more of people from previously disadvantaged backgrounds that don't have access to funding. And that starts opening the door, right, to build a meaningful career in media advertising. And it can be a meaningful career. Not many people are aware of the fulfillment that comes with being in that space. So it starts from the bursary process. Then we go into our internships and learnerships. So really, it's bringing it back. So the investment that's made is making sure that then it's sustainable. We then want to make sure that we're giving youth the opportunity to get learning exposure to people, to our clients, without barriers. Sometimes it's always not possible, but our objective is to make sure that we deliver on that promise. So coupled with that is also exposure and learning programs. We have a fantastic learning platform available that anyone in our organization has access to. And the great thing about learning, like you cannot put a price tag on what you learn. Like even if you leave an organization, you have to leave that organization with a wealth of knowledge. So what we try to educate and instill in all our employees is come in with a mindset of growth and learning. And growth doesn't always have to be horizontal, it can be lateral. So we want to start building competencies because that's what's important. It's not about a title. It's about the experience and the exposure and the depth that comes within a role before you take the next step. Coupled with that is mentorship, graduate programs, etc. They obviously all have a time frame, but for me, it's important on the people that are mentoring the individuals in those roles. So a key focus for me in my role this year is to develop that layer so they can be inspirational, they can inspire, they can guide, coach, and connect so that you can build a meaningful career within the organization. Also, the access to learning, in the past, I think it was very limited to budgets. We have a platform that's in place that is global. We're also offering exposure to, our talent within the business to work anywhere in the world, for 6 weeks at a time that we as a company support and fund so that the skill set is not leaving the country. We're giving people that exposure to tap into what exists out there, but still come back, right? So that is something that we also focused a lot on is making sure we're building capabilities and skills and we're building a diverse network of people that we call spirited people to start adding value back into society and start adding value back into our clients that we service ultimately. So obsessing over people, it's really putting people first is not something that I would like to think we just say that's on paper. We need to start walking the talk. So I believe that I talk less and I do more because that's what's important. And it starts with you guys sitting here. It starts with being brave, being bold, being open to learn, putting your hand up, saying that I want to connect with many people as possible. And part of open possibilities is your network is your net worth.
That's good.
So the more people you know, the better it is for your brand. And you are a brand, right? Technically, you are a brand. So it's important for you to establish what is it that you want in life. You need to be deliberate about the company that you choose to work for. It just doesn't happen by chance. You need to be aligned to the values because that's when you're going to thrive in any organization.
That's really, really good. I love what you just said there. Your network is your net worth. If that's a tweetable moment, right? Okay. I think one of the things that I just want to highlight before we move on is technology, right? And I think I'm going to ask Amonge and maybe Jed also just to give an answer to this question before we move on to Q&A. So Yvonne just shared just now to say we need to be brave, right? We're going to give an opportunity just now for you to get to ask some questions to the panel. They're here, they're ready to answer. This is your chance for you to put those questions out there and get answers to them. But I think a big part of it we spoke about is open learning, right? There's so many different platforms where we can learn. What are some of the things that you've seen that have actually helped you advance in your career? And what are those that you would actually recommend to young people to also take advantage of to grow themselves?
Geez, I mean, there's been so many factors, I will say, to myself and my organization getting to where it is now. I think to your point, network is everything. a lot of the time it's about talent, it's about hard work, it's about showing up. But some of the time it is about who you know and working those relationships.
Yeah.
So I've been really fortunate to have a really supportive network of mentors, of just people who have showed up to support me and my organization and have been like vouching for me in rooms that I didn't even know about. So, I mean, network, people, just like you're saying, it's about people. It's about cultivating relationships and not necessarily to the end goal of, you know, what can they do for me? Because it can't be that transactional, but, you know, investing in people and investing your time in understanding people, relating to people, that's usually when you get the most value out of that relationship. So I would definitely say to any young person, any opportunity to network and expand, you know, your network is always take it. I was so awkward and introverted, so I always hated it. But I know, I understand now how important it's been and how important it's going to continue to be. So networking, I think we've spoken a lot to intentionality. That's also a major thing. I think it's one thing to walk in your intention, it's another thing to know it. I think there are a lot of people much later in their lives who are still trying to figure that out. So it's not the end of the world if you don't have it figured out, but it's definitely helpful when you do, because then it guides, you know, what you choose to do, where you choose to work, who you choose to interact with, because, you know, you have a guiding principle. And then, yeah, social media. You know, we're in the digital age. No generation before us has had the kind of connectivity that we've had access to. So that is a major advantage. And I mean, there's all the dangers of social media. I get it. But I think there's also so much good that can be done on platforms like that. We can connect to people all around the world, all different ages, all different genders. Like it's just so broad, the spectrum of information and people that we're able to connect to on those platforms. So don't underestimate the value of that, and your being able to use that is also a tool that you can, you know, use in certain spaces where people might not understand it. Yeah, I won't claim to be a major techie, but you know, it's important to understand the tools that we have available to us, because you know that's why they're there, and that's what also makes our generation, I think, very unique, is what we have access to. So yeah, I think those would be the three things, as just like things that, you know, you should work on. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool, thanks. I'm going to skip the technology part.
Okay.
Just because I don't think there's enough time, because I can talk for long. But I'll talk about experience of my 21, 22 years plus of working. So it was dial-up technology when I started. You had to wait forever for like the screen to come in. So we're very fortunate that we got Google now and social networks. And yes, networking is still awkward for me, and I'm an extrovert. It's something that has to be done. Okay, so the first thing is be curious. Be curious. If you want to succeed at anything, you've got to be curious. All the people I've seen who've succeeded in their career is they're not just doing the job, they're curious. And being curious means find out more, go and research stuff, understand what's going on. So be curious, be hungry, be ambitious, and be humble. Those are the let's say the traits. Okay. The next thing is hard work. If you want to make it, you've got to work hard. You guys are all young, so you won't know. There was this professional golfer called Gary Player. Maybe some of you have still heard of him, but he had an expression which I loved. The more I practice, the luckier I get. And it goes through with work. The harder you work, the luckier you'll get. Okay, but if you don't couple that with curiosity, hungry, ambitious, and smart, you're not going to get anywhere. Okay. The next thing is be patient. If I could look at my younger self, I would have said, park some of the ambition and just be patient, because you learn so much through patience. There's this, we were discussing it earlier. It's something I see a lot with the youth. You've got your degrees, you come in, and now you want to be the boss. Like, it's gonna take time, but I'd never enjoyed the moments of my achievements because I was too hungry and ambitious to look for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So if I went to my younger self, I'd be just be patient, learn that. Don't chase the money, guys. It's easy when you don't have that much money and somebody's offering you more money to go across. Chase the experience, okay? Because we do have experience and skills gaps in South Africa. And I think the more experience you get, the better you'll do and the better you'll succeed. And your next job will get even better and better, but get that experience. Don't chase the money. Money will come, but be patient, okay? Be vulnerable. We spoke about that earlier. Don't be scared to ask for help. I'm the boss. And I'm still telling and maybe it's the wrong thing. Maybe other leaders will tell me I'm wrong, but I'll tell my team, I don't know what I'm doing all the time. And any leader who tells you that they know everything is lying because you learn every day. I make mistakes all the time. So be vulnerable. Something that you have to do too, because if you want to make it and you want to be successful, don't always do the status quo. So I've got a saying that I always use, and I've stolen it a bit from various different podcasts or things, but fail fast. You don't have time to fail slowly. Fail fast, but have the guts to fail fast. Take the learnings and fall forward. I'm not sure if you've seen the Denzel Washington, his doctorate acceptance speech. Watch it if you didn't. It's called Fall Forward. I watch that once a quarter. Okay, so fall forward, it means fail, learn, take the learnings, and then try fail again. So you're falling forward the whole time. So that way you keep learning. So the thing is, fail fast, fall forward, and then pivot. Yeah, those are the things I'd say do. And as a youth, you guys don't like this because I didn't like it either. When people give you criticism, don't get angry, don't get defensive. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk back. It's the people giving you criticism, it's because they care about you and they want you to do better. That's why they're giving you criticism. I used to hate criticism. I still do, but take it because it makes you go better. So listen, if somebody's giving you criticism, it's because they care about you and they want you to succeed. So take that criticism. Yeah, we don't know everything, although you think you do when you're young. And I've got a few other things, but that's all I can remember. But those are some of the big lessons that I've learned in my career, and I'm still learning every day. Okay.
Still learning every day. I love that because I think so many times we miss that. Jacob, do you want to add something?
I think just to echo and add to what you've said now. As a youth, you need to embrace the sort of the attitude of being a servant. You need to serve. How I started my job, how started her role. She volunteered to be a receptionist somewhere, and look at where she is today. So I often bump into youth that are not willing to serve and have the servant mentality. There's power in that. So in your journey, don't forget to serve and embrace that spirit of being a servant.
I remember the other thing I wanted to
Okay.
say. You reminded me with the servant. So don't always chase going up. Take the sideways moves. Okay. Think of your career like a jungle gym. So I've often taken 2 steps backwards to go forward.
Yeah.
So I've gone in where I was at a certain role and taken a job where I was at a less of a role than what I was before. But that helps you accelerate. So it's a jungle gym. If you get an opportunity, be brave and take it. I'll give an example. I got offered to go and lead the Nigerian market. Now, we all know Hillbrow, and that's what you think Nigeria is about. It's not. Nigeria was the best opportunity I've done in my life. I got to meet so many good, colorful people. People with hard work ethic, hungry hustlers. But that was something, I don't know if everyone would have taken the opportunity to go to a place like Nigeria. So any opportunity, take it. Take it, take it, take it. Be brave, bold, and take it. Opportunities don't come up often. And that's all part of being a servant. Yeah.
Awesome. So be brave. This is my favorite part because now we get to engage with you everybody that's in our audience and those that are joining us online as well. So, how it's going to work is you get to ask a question to our panel. Like we said, the topic of today is creating a world for all ages. We know that in order for us to advance, to be better, there's power in all of us collaborating, sharing, asking questions, and getting the answers that we need. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for the team to stand up that's going to be passing along the mic. And if you want to ask a question, we're going to start off with about 2 questions in-house, and then we'll go to a question online, and then we'll see if we have any more time for more questions as well. But if you are asking a question, we'd like you to actually come up to the front. This is your opportunity to be brave. Ask your question. Don't be scared. We're just people. And make sure that you do not leave this room with something that you could have had answered very easily. Are you guys ready? You sure? Sure? Okay. So hands up if you have a question. Awesome. Cool. Can I grab this mic? Awesome. There you go. Let's see, you can start there. So we're going to ask you to come to the front, remember? Seize the moment. Mercy, maybe this side. So you must just say your name very loudly so that everybody knows, and then you can ask your question to either person on the panel or a specific person.
Hi, my name is Dewo Khontlapo. I'm a recent law graduate, so hopefully I don't over politicize the conversation. My question is a bit twofold, and I think it just goes out to every member of the panel. I think the first question, which you've answered, but I think every person had a different answer to it, and I think I just want to hear the specifics of what I'm trying to ask, which is how would individuals and organizations accelerate the transfer of experience? Because I think as well, everybody here right now, we'll all tell you one thing, which is I have the skills in terms of papers, but there's this hindrance, which is experience. And then when you go into the organization, you'll find that the people holding on to the experience are the very ones who are supposed to be passing it. So how would you, maybe your personal opinion, accelerate the transfer of experience? That's the first question. Then the second one is, this is where it gets political, by the way. I think it's safe to argue that back in the day, life was a tad bit easier than it is now. I think things are just overly complicated now, and you have to navigate things as and when they happen. I mean, just yesterday there was COVID. Today we are looking at a possible recession. So how do we then, or how would you suggest, as young people who are still trying to work towards our goals, navigate socio-economic circumstances while continuing on the path towards, let's call it success?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can I jump in on that second question? I mean, I don't know if you're supposed to keep standing there, but I think I totally hear you in terms of, the world we're living in is so complicated. But I will say, I think there's a saying that there's nothing new under the sun. And I think it would be a really ill assumption for us to think that everything that we're going through is new. Like this is crazy. And it is to an extent because, it's a different way. There's different ways that we're experiencing things, and we're experiencing, like you're saying, economic recessions or different social issues. But I do think that there is value in understanding that we are not the first and we will not be the last. And so you always have resources to reach out to kind of figure out how to navigate. And honestly, when we're talking about sort of accelerating experience, that's how you do it. It's reaching out. It's about finding out how they figured it out. How did you make that work? And yes, it may not necessarily be your superior in a corporate environment who maybe isn't willing to learn from you or engage with you. But like we're saying, there's so many other platforms. There's so many other platforms. There's social media. You can look up TED Talks. You can, people are willingly sharing information and insights about how they accelerated either their initiatives or growth in their organizations or this, that, and the other. So the information is out there, and we're not the first. So I think definitely lean into that when you're trying to figure out how to improve yourself, yeah.
Awesome.
I think I'll touch on both. Sorry, this mic has not been friendly to me. I keep on going. Um, I'll touch on the second question, then we'll go to the first. Some of the greatest innovation in the world has come about in the hardest times. So there is massive potential, massive opportunity. And I think it starts with the change of language. When you change your language, everything else shifts. If you tell the world I can't, then you probably won't be able to. It's a mindset thing. So change your language and see what happens. If there's one thing you want to tweet today, change your language, and the universe will reward you accordingly. Your second part of question is there are rules and guidelines that we put in place as an organization. So I'll speak from an EdCorp perspective, then personally. We have deliberately put together a set of values that everyone in the organization needs to live by. Those values really speak to how everybody within the organization can interplay, can interact. There is no ageism issues, there are no discrimination issues, because our values are so clear and succinct that they actually foster the intergenerational solidarity mindset. So I'll give you an example. We have a value called teamwork. Within that, we don't just say teamwork, we clearly define what it is and what it's not. So within that, you can clearly distinguish, just because my boss is older than me doesn't mean I don't have to walk up to his office and give him my ideas and actually work together towards a common goal. We deliberately make sure that we cultivate an environment where ideas are embraced rather than hierarchy. So there are values that are there. So what I can say to you is always have that as your guiding principle. What do you fall back to? Your values, your principles that remind you what the right thing to do is. We have another value called diversity and inclusion. And it spans across, sexuality, gender, race, but not only that, but age as well. We're saying what it is and what it's not. And lastly, agility, which speaks, I think, defines you guys. You don't prescribe to a uniform way of working, right? You guys want to be agile. You guys want to flex. You guys want to, so we've entrenched that into our company ethos, and we have put policies such as your work from home policy, which in the past we wouldn't even have that round table discussion, because the hierarchy who have been there for 100 years, who are 120 years of age, don't want to listen to a 20-year-old graduate. Therefore, the work from home policy will not pass. Things are changing. We have been deliberate in taking that action, and people can now work from home. You can flex, you can do what you want. So I think just to summarize, there are principles. Be deliberate about jotting those down, implement them, follow them. Then the second piece is just around language, guys. I want to just, if you can leave with anything here today, change your language and see your world change.
Wow. Sure, that's good. Thank you. Awesome. Any other brave souls in the house? Okay. Yeah. Just say your name.
Hello, guys. You all look so pretty.
Just bring the mic up.
Thank you. My name is Zolek Angwenya. I am a political studies graduate and currently doing my third year in law at UP. So I have two questions as well. Jacob, I hear you talk a lot about the top-down approach, hierarchy, whereas Saint, on the other hand, you speak a lot about employee-driven changes and ideas. So I want to ask Jacob, how are you and your organization ensuring that you do the utmost best to involve your youth employees in decision making, in ideas, and so on and so forth? And secondly, my second question is how, okay, what advice can you give us here in the room that we can actually walk out of this room and be able to make opportunities for other youth people like us who are looking for jobs and struggling? How can we ensure that we create our own organizations? We're not always going to be want to work for people, you know? At some point, we actually do want to have organizations that we can also call our own, you know? We want to build a legacy. We want something that we can also be able to call our own. And I think it's more of a struggle for us, firstly because of the experience that is always required of us. I just graduated, and you're already wanting 5 years experience from me. Where am I going to get it? I currently am unemployed because everywhere I go, I am asked for a little bit of the experience. And where am I going to get it? I'm coming to you because I want experience. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's
Jacob and Saint, the mic is yours.
You want to go first? Or?
I think I don't know which question to start with, and maybe I'll answer one just so that we give everyone a fair
Yeah.
opportunity and time. Um, You're right. I think that that's probably the most flawed thing about the way in which the talent market is currently working, right? We expect young people to have that experience. So, I mean, I think people understand that you probably want to do employability programs, because the reality is not every company is going to be able to take on 5,000 graduates, and that's probably the need, right? So internships are limited in terms of bringing people in with the intent of giving them that experience. So that's what I think is so flawed, and I don't know what the solution is. I think in part All4Youth is trying to provide that employability,
Absolutely.
right? Working on making you employable such that you have a little bit of that experience or the right skill set to at least be a bit more competitive than somebody who's just got their degree and nothing more in terms of boldness. And I've actually been like you are, all of you in this room, um, looking to equip yourself with the right skill set, have the right conversations, be in the right spaces to engineer those opportunities. I loved what you said about we also want a piece of the pie that is ours, that ownership. I think that's beautiful. And I don't know. I don't give advice because I think I'm on my own journey. So I always say I share my journey, and if it inspires you, that's great. But I really give advice, so I'm not going to give you advice. But what I will say is, and that's what Jacob said, right? And that's what I was trying to allude to in the beginning: the power of language. when we view challenges as opportunities, I think it's not easy. I'm not saying you're going to have the magic bullet to create whatever, venture you want to go into or organization, but it's in that mindset. It's in that ability. For me, I found has been transformative in terms of shaping how I see the world. Being a servant has served me well, and it's actually opened up many opportunities along the way. So for me, I think in my experience, that framing of your current situation in terms of that ownership part of your question, I think has been transformative, and it might be something that I think could be transformative for other people. It was long. Sorry, I talk a lot.
Very, very powerful. I think the questions you're asking are pertinent to everyone in this room. And what I can say to you is they are thought-provoking. And because they are, we need to start thinking about things differently. So you look at 20 years plus,